So we're now moved forward to the end of his life. How many years are there between the end of the previous book and the beginning, or the rebellion of Avshalom? Really, that was the last event. Because the last 4 chapters, we said, are not really describing the end of his life. They're just stories that happened during his reign. The last event really was putting down the rebellion of Sheva ben Bichri, which was immediately after the rebellion of Avshalom. And we can work a little bit about the time, because we know, we already made a timeline, that Shlomo HaMelech was born a year after the story of Bathsheba. And according to Chazal, Shlomo HaMelech was approximately 12 at the time that his father died. Okay? So David died when he was 70, and the story about Sheva happened 13 or 14 years before, because he was 12 and you've got to add a year for her pregnancy, for their first baby's pregnancy. So the story about Sheva happened 14 years before he was 70, which means when he was 56. Right? And then in between, you've got the events of Tamar being raped, and then Avshalom killing Amnon, then Avshalom going to Geshur, and then coming back. There's like each of those things about 3 years long, and then eventually he makes a rebellion, and that sort of fills in the gap. So there's a few years between the end of the rebellion of Avshalom and over here. So let's take 2 or 3 years in between, and that's and now David is really old. Now David's okay. The king David had become old. Bar Bayomim. Bar means coming. Bayomim in days. Means in English we say getting on in years. Right? Because Yomim doesn't always mean days. Yomim can also mean years.
Oh wow.
Yomim, Bayomim. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. Got it? Okay. And King David, Zokain, was an old man. Bar Bayomim, getting on in years. Now, that's an expression in English, coming, yeah? But what does it really mean? Once you said the guy's old, who is old? What does getting on in years mean?
He's closer to death.
Yes, it means that he's not just old and sprightly, he's
getting
weak and showing signs of cracking up. No, that's not the right word to say. Of losing energy, right? So, and you see in the apostle, Vayechasuhu, and they covered him. Means his servants. Babagodim, with clothes, or with blankets, or with things to warm him up. The loy yicham loy, and he could not make himself warm. He couldn't get how many layers of clothes on, he couldn't warm himself up. Okay? Now, why did this happen? Does it happen to all old people? In old people, their circulation isn't good, right? And that's why they feel cold, right? Because I'll say this didn't just happen to David. First, it wasn't that old, right? At the time he died, he was 70. As I'll say that this was a measure for measure, because of David's lack of respect for Shaul's clothes. Remember when Shaul was in the cave, relieving himself at the back of the sheep pen, and David and his men were at the back of the cave, and David crept up to him very quietly and cut off the corner of his garment. So he was showing disrespect for Shaul's clothes.
But at the same time, he didn't want to wear Shaul's armor when he fought Goliath.
So,
that's like respect.
Well, yes, the question is that really the reason why he didn't want to wear it? You're right. He says he didn't want to. He says he tried it on, right? According to Chazal, the reason why he took it off immediately is because it miraculously shrunk to his size.
And that's his respect.
Well, that was because he didn't want to look, it became very suspicious in the eyes of Shaul. Why is this miracle happening to David? That the king's armor fits him. It's English, if the hat fits, wear it. Which means, maybe he's going to be the next king. Right. He's already been told at the time he was going to lose he was going to lose the kingship. So that was okay. So, and you have to. There's another consideration. He did this because he didn't want to kill Shaul. Remember, he could have killed Shaul. He wanted to give a message to Shaul by doing this that he had the ability to kill him and didn't kill him, and therefore Shaul should leave him alone. See, I could have killed you when I wanted to, and I didn't, so I don't hold anything against you, and you shouldn't be trying to chase me. So he had good intention, right? But even still.
That's even more respect.
Well, they get respect for clothes, they get respect for shalom. Right? Correct. But there's other ways you can do it. You can write a note. I was here. Please do something else. Okay. What you're supposed to do. So how do you keep warm if blankets don't warm you up? So what do you do? What do you do on a cold winter night?
Yeah, fire.
Well, that's not such actually a good idea, because I'm sure you must have learnt in first aid that all that does is brings the blood to the surface, and then you actually get colder afterwards. Because initially you feel a bit warmer.
Hot water bottle.
Right. It means you need some. You actually. That's why blankets are better, because blankets actually keep the heat in.
They make it so.
Right.
Yeah.
This is actually bringing the heat out. Okay. So now, if you have a hot water bottle, you know what a hot water bottle is?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a blanket around you, then it keeps the warmth in. Okay, now, the problem with the hot water bottles is if you just need them to get to sleep, that's fine. But what happens if you're actually old and you can't keep warm? So then the hot water gets cold,
and
then you get cold. Right? So today we have electric blankets, right, which stay hot. What do you do if you don't have electricity? How do you keep warm?
Sure. Didn't he have enough like concubines?
Oh, very good. Very good. So that would have been a solution.
But
the problem with his concubines is
they're
forbidden to him, right? He put them in a special place because his son Avshalom had slept.
He didn't get more.
One second. No, apparently not. That wasn't the solution. It could be he couldn't take any more because he had a limit on how many wives he was allowed to have.
18.
Remember, 18. It could be that he had filled his quota, right? Okay. So he could have taken one of his wives. Just take, why does he have some concubines? What's wrong with his wives? Wives will also keep him warm, right?
Yes.
So just take a wife. So I don't know the answer. It could be his wife's already old. And only a young girl is going to keep you warm. You know, just like you can't be warm, your old wife, who's the same age as you, is also going to be cold. So she's not going to warm you up either. So most people don't have a solution. If you're the king, that's not a big problem, right? So let's see what his servant said. And his servant said to him, means his close, Yevakshu, they should seek, means they, whoever it will be the job to look at, La'adoni HaMelech, for my master the king, Na'ara, a young girl, Basula, who's a virgin, V'amda lifnei HaMelech, and she should stand in front of the king, which means it doesn't mean standing is not the point. That's not going to help him. It means she should be ready for the king whenever he needs. Or tehi lo sochenet, and she should be a sochenet. And what's a sochenet? Today a sochenet means a woman who sells property. No, not sells property, but arranges between buyers and sellers, what they call a real estate agent. It's called a sochenet. That's not what it means here. No, here it means a human hot water bottle. That's what it means. Someone who you cuddle in bed and she'll keep you warm. So you'll say, oh, what happened about Shema Nagia? Right? Good question.
King.
Right? We're talking about a king who was allowed to have a concubine for whatever reason why a king's allowed to. So obviously this normal prohibition that applies to regular people for some reason doesn't apply to a king. But we could discuss that, actually a long discussion, why kings shouldn't have these problems. So if you hold that having a what do you call it, a girlfriend is not forbidden by Jewish law, by biblical law, right? So then there's no problem, right? So she's his girlfriend. What's the big deal, right? She went to mikvah. She wasn't a nida, right? And that's it. So it's not a big deal. If you hold that having a girlfriend is forbidden by biblical law, which the Rambam holds, then you have a problem with this story, right? But then you have a problem with all Pilegesh, why it's okay. Okay? So I once explained like this, I once read the explanation, is the reason why it's different for a king is because the reason why the Torah prohibits a Pilegesh is because there's no legal connection between the two. Because there's no marriage. He can just get up tomorrow morning and tell her to go. So there's no connection. And because there's no connection, it's just basically a loose form of prostitution. There's nothing binding these two people together. There's no connection. There's no obligation. She can just go to somebody else. That's only true by regular people. By a king, she won't be able to go to anybody else in any case, because she's something the king has used, and something the king has used is out of line for somebody commoner to use it. So she has that automatic connection with the king. She can't just go and sleep with anybody else, even if she wants to. So if she was your girlfriend or my girlfriend, then tomorrow morning she'd just get up and go to somebody else. But with the king, she won't be able to do that because of the rules of relationship with the king. And therefore, even though she doesn't marry the king, she's still permitted to him.
Wait, but then after she's not going to be able to marry
Anybody.
So like isn't that like a little bit? The king is old and is going to die.
Well, yes, you'll have to get a girl to agree to do this.
For the rest of her life, she won't be.
It's up to her. You know,
It's up
she
to
can.
her.
Yeah. Well, she'd actually be permitted for the next king.
Ah.
She's permitted for the next king. It's not permitted for a commoner. That's all part of the story, right? To see that, it all plays out. This, right? But you know, a girl, if she's got financial security, well, we part of a condition. I'm prepared to be your concubine if you look after me the rest of my life, and when you die, there's an insurance policy, whatever. And she'll be able to brag her whole life that she was done with her mother's hot water bottle. You know, some girls, find that exciting. They'll never be able to get married. Okay, so big deal.
But she's able to get married to the next.
The next king, if the next king wants to marry her, maybe not like her. Whatever. Okay. So let's seek out a young one. Now, why does she have to be Basula? She doesn't really have. Basula means a virgin. She doesn't really have to be a virgin because not all virgins are warmer than non-virgin.
Basula.
Right? Basula means a virgin. Betula, second line, middle of the line. Na'ara means a young girl around the age of 12 or 13. Right? That's what it usually means. It doesn't have to mean that, but so technically it means that age. Right? Basula means a virgin. I think the reason why she should be a virgin is because it's not right that the king should have a girl who's been used by somebody else. Okay? I guess that's the idea. But Amda, she'll stand in front of the king, means she'll be ready. And she'll be available to sleep with him. She will sleep in your lap. Doesn't mean she'll be a sexual partner. She could be, but she doesn't have to be. Right? She'll just keep you warm. Because human beings don't go cold at night, right? They stay warm. And that way, for the royal, he doesn't have a hot water bottle that goes cold. He has a girl that will keep him warm. V'cham la'adoni ha'melech, and it will be hot or warm for my master the king. So this was an idea that one of his lads or his advisors came up with. So that's what they do. It doesn't say the king agreed or didn't agree. It doesn't say. Presumably the king agreed.
Yeah, well,
Why
else would it be there?
What?
Well, they're not going to put the first two lines of kings there if he didn't agree.
Yeah, correct. I must have agreed, but it just doesn't say. It doesn't say. And the king said, that's a great idea, go on. By Vakshu Nara, so they sought out Nara Yafa. Now here it says they sought out a beautiful girl, even though no one actually suggested that. But it could be the king said, well, if you're going to do it, she has to be beautiful. I don't want some ugly girl just because she can keep me nice and warm. It actually doesn't say they sought out the Basula, does it? It doesn't say. She probably was. I have no idea. But it's interesting. They didn't look for. Maybe it was obvious she'll be Basula. Every young girl's a Basula, but this is not North America, right? This is Eretz Yisrael, where these girls are from. Nice Beis Yaakov girls. Obviously, they're a Basula, unless she was married, right? But if she was married, obviously she couldn't. So why would you have to look out for a Basula? Why shouldn't the girl be a Basula? So maybe they didn't even think of looking for that. But Yafa, not all girls are Yafa. Some are, right? Okay, so that's what they looked for. So there was a bit of a beauty contest, right? In all the borders of Israel. Gavul means a border. Right? So they went through the whole country, prettiest young girl, who agreed. Doesn't say she had to agree, but that was part of the contest. You have to know what you're being chosen for. Yimtzu, and they found. That's Avishag Hashunamis. That was her name, Avishag Hashunamis. My youngest daughter, I used to call Avishag Hashunamis. Why? Because when she was a baby, so I used to take her from her bed into my bed when I was cold. I used to cuddle her, so to keep me warm at night. I used to call her my Avishag. No, usually it wasn't the problem, because usually there was always another baby who would come into my bed to sleep. Mm-hmm. When I got to the youngest, there was no. When she was already 3, right, there was no one to take her place. There was no younger ones. So she was in bed. Now it's cold, so I picked her up and put her into my bed. Right. So I was told I was not allowed to mention that when I spoke of the Sheva Brachos. And they found the Shunammite. That's a name. It's the name of a place called Shunem. It's actually famous because it was a famous woman who Shunammite was a big tzaddik, right? From a different period in history, like 100 years later. They brought her to the king. And this young girl, Yafa, she was beautiful, Adma'id, until a lot. It's like exceedingly beautiful. Not just Yafa, not even just Yafa Ma'id, Yafa Adma'id, as if like all the way till you get to Ma'id, that's how beautiful she was. Vatihila Melech Sochenes, and she was to the king Sochenes.
How old was she? Do we know?
Doesn't say. So she was a Nara. So again, technical age of Nara means between 12 and 12 and a half. It doesn't have to mean that. That's the, when you're talking technicalities, that's what the word actually means.
Okay.
Back to show. Seyu, and she served him. She didn't just serve him at night time and keep him warm in bed. She also made his tea and whatever, ironed his clothes, whatever. Back to show. Seyu, and she served him. Sharet is to serve. To serve as, yeah. V'hamelech lo yeda'ah, and the king did not know her, meaning he never actually had sexual relations with her. That could have been because of the problem. If he would have to make her into a wife, and he had too many wives already, so therefore that's why. No, she just kept him warm. He never actually had relations with her. Okay, all right. That's an introduction to the next few chapters. Now it gets back to the storyline. But Adoniyahu ben Chagis. Adoniyahu was David's fourth son. His oldest one was Amnon, who had raped his sister, and he was killed by Avshalom. His next one was Kilav, who we never heard anything about. The next one was Avshalom, who was killed with his hair hanging from the tree. Right? This is the fourth son.
Wait, who?
Avshalom. No, this is the fourth one.
But it says Ben Chagis.
Ben Chagis, that's all. So
it's not David's son.
No, Chagis is his mother's name. Chagit is his mother's name. Chagit is a girl's name. Adoniyahu ben Chagit, and he was David's fourth son, or the son of his fourth wife. Okay? Misnaseh. So Nasa means
to
lift up.
To lift up. Very good. Misnaseh, the tough means it's something he's doing to himself. Very good. You think just those guys do a siyam on Hebrew grammar? We can do a siyam on Hebrew grammar. Misnaseh, he lifted himself up. He elevated up himself. Lamar saying, Ani emloch, I will be king. So we've got another son of David who wants to be king. Because they all know, or they all guess, that when David dies, he's going to pick somebody else. Right? The son.
Is Shlomo already born?
Shlomo's already 12-year-old. He's a big boy.
When did Shlomo get born up? Before
he was born a year after the story of Bathsheba. You were here with Bathsheba?
Yes.
So the year after, the baby who was born immediately died, and he gave birth to Shlomo, and Hashem sent a message that he loves him, and he called him Yedidia at that point. He named his name Yedidia.
It was exactly this year. I was
okay. So it looks like that the other brothers realized that they were not going to be picked as king. That's why Avshalom rebelled. That's why Adoniyahu decides he's going to be king as well. He's not making a rebellion, he's just declaring himself king. Look, David's an old man in any case. David can't do anything. David can't fight. David's so cold he can't keep himself warm in bed. Right? There's no way David's old enough, he's got strength to fight. And he'll just appoint himself king, and the king will deal with that. Once he's king, then Shlomo won't become king. If he waits till David dies, then we'll have to read the will. And the will say that Shlomo is going to be king. Whereas if you become king without asking, then it's called de facto, right? It'll be too late. So that's what he wants. He elevated himself, and he thought that he was fit to be king. Lema ani emloch, I will be king. Vayas lo, he made for himself rechev, a chariot, uparoshim, and horse riders who rode on the horses in front of the chariot. V'chamishim ish, and 50 men, rotzim lefanov, running in front of him. This is exactly the same copy of what Avshalom did when he felt that he should become king.
So another rebellion.
Another rebellion. Okay. That's not declaring war yet. He's just acting as if he's the crown prince. Which he probably feels he is, because he's the oldest son of David.
David really didn't do like a good job.
So that's the next pasuk. What's happening with all David's kids? None of them turn out good. Everyone is in his turn is a rebel. What sort of chinuch did David give to his children? So that's what the pasuk seems you're going to fill with this question. The next pasuk answers your question. Right? We had it with number 1, right? Amnon raped Tamar. And then we've got Avshalom rebels, right? So what's going to be? It's going to keep all of them. V'loi atzavai aviv miyamav. His father had never upset him. Atzuf means upset. Lamar is saying, Madua kacha asisa? Why did you do like this? Means when he did something out of place, David has never said, no. Yeah? So they never walloped him, right? So David didn't know the trick, apparently. Now, we know the trick, but, Shlomo Melech, David's son, says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Yeah? He who spares his stick hates his child. But Shlomo Melech could have learned that from experience, because he saw that this brother rebelled and that brother rebelled, and right. So he learned. But David didn't have anyone to learn from. Okay. So what did he do? Or maybe he was just too busy.
But he did it. He had older brothers. He had
but they were well behaved. Understand? David had naughty children, right? He didn't know the naughty children you're supposed to wallop them, right? Or smack them tochas, right? You're not supposed to let them get away with anything. I don't know. Maybe David was too busy. I don't know why, but that's what it says, right? I don't know why David didn't do it. But like I said, his father never upset him in all his days. Miyamav, from all his days. Means in his whole life, David never said, Lema, saying, Madua kacha sisa? Why did you do this? That's one of his problems, that he was never being walloped. But Gam, also, hu tov ta'ama'oid. He's also very handsome. Ta'ar is his features, his shape, that's what it really means. Tov ma'od, he had a very, very handsome. V'oisa yolda acharei Avshalom. And he was born after Avshalom. Not to the same mother. No. So they should say v'oisa yolad. If it means David gave birth to him, because David was the father after Avshalom, which is v'oisa yolad. Oisa yolda sounds like the mother. But the mother was, Avshalom's mother was not the same as Adonya's mother, right? So maybe what it means is he was brought up in the same way as Avshalom.
Right.
And therefore that's why he turned out like Avshalom.
Yeah.
Now here aim for a shock. Vayiyu devarav im Yoav ben Tzeruya. And his words were with Yoav. Means he decided to seek an alliance with Yoav. Why? Because Yoav knows that he's also in big trouble. He's killed Avner. He killed Avshalom. He killed Amasa. Right? David originally got rid of Yoav after he killed Avshalom. Right? And then Yoav killed Amasa. Right? But he knows that when David dies, or at some point, he's going to be in big trouble. Which is exactly what's going to happen. Okay? So maybe Adonai can make an alliance with you. So Yoav, if you support me, I'll let you off on your war crimes. Right? I'll turn a blind eye to it.
Right.
So that's what it doesn't say that Yoav agreed, but he spoke to Yoav about joining forces with Yoav. Ve'im Evyosa Rakoye. And also Evyosa. Now what's Evyosa got against David? So we mentioned at some point in the rebellion of Avshalom, you remember this story, when they left Yerushalayim, Evyosa and Tzadok came with the ark. And David said to Evyosa, well, it doesn't say so in the story. In the story, it says something about they put the ark down, and then they asked Tzadok, and Evyosa went up. We didn't know what's going on.
Right.
So Chazal fill in, and they say what happened was that David asked Evyosa whether they should fight against Avshalom. They asked the Urim V'Tumim. And Evyosa couldn't get an answer. And David said that's a sign that it's time to fulfill the curse of Eli. Right at the beginning of Shmuel Aleph, Eli, who was the Kohen Gadol, his sons did not behave like they should, and they were a bit of a disgrace to the family of the Kohanim. And God sent a curse that the priesthood would change, the high priesthood would change from the family of Eli and go to somebody else. But he didn't say when it would happen, he said it would happen sometime in the future, and David felt it was now the time to do it. And that's why he said, if Yosef, you don't know the answer, it's time for you to be pushed aside and make tzedek instead. And that's why if Yosa is being approached by Adoniyahu, maybe you'll join me. If you join me, I'll reinstate you as the high priest.
But surely, as the high priest, you know that you can't do that.
It's a good question. It's a good question from a person who's tzaddik and expects everybody else to be on your level. But you have to understand, people, even big people, make mistakes when they feel. Yes, you're right. Think of it sitting here in a nice, cool room in Aish Torah. That would be the honest way to view this. And there's nothing you can do with God, and God's going to do the right thing. Yeah, but people go after the Sahara, and he thinks he can maneuver things and political movements, and people do all sorts of that, right? Unfortunately, so that's what he thinks. He'll join forces with Adoniyahu, and he'll also be reinstated. Bayazru. So Bayazru can mean to help, Lazor. But here I think yes, that's what it means, right? Yeah, as a belt it's spelled with an aleph. No, so they helped Acharei Adonim, and they said, yeah, we're going to help you. So both Yoav and Evyasa supported Adoniyahu in his request or desire to be king.
Just like that.
Just like, but it doesn't say just like that. I don't know how many weeks these discussions went on for.
Right.
You don't expect the turn to go into detail, right?
But I thought Yoav was like.
He was very loyal to David the whole time, but there comes a point where he realized he's done so much. He saw that he lost his job, right? And he only got it back because he killed Amasa.
Right.
So he knew he was not in favor. David he lost favor with David. Okay, so maybe this was his only hope of survival. But Tzadok, however, Tzadok, he's the other Kohen. Ubenayahu ben Yehoyada, who I suppose would have been the other candidate to be the head of the army, because he, don't forget, was the head of the crazy in the place. Remember, David's royal guard of archers and slingshot. That was Benayahu ben Yehoyada. Okay, so he was not asked, because they're for sure not going to support Adoniyahu. Adoniyahu never let onto them at all. But Tzadok HaKohen, who's the new Kohen Gadol, Benayahu ben Yehoyada, who is the head of David's loyal troops, the Nasan Hanavi and the prophet Nasan. There's two prophets in David's life. There's God and Nasan. Nasan Hanavi, he was the one who came and told him off at the time of Bathsheba. The Shimi, nothing to say. Who's Shimi?
He was the one that threw the rocks at them.
Right, who threw the rocks at David. So he knows he better not support the second time. Make a mistake once, you say in English, once bitten, twice shy. Know that expression? If you're bitten by a dog once, the next time you keep away from it. Right. Once bitten, twice shy. Okay? Okay. So that's the idea. Shimi, he's not asked because there's no way he's going to join the second time. He's on parole, right? On the first time, he has to be on his best behavior. The Reyi, I don't think we've had anyone who was called Reyi, but it probably means David's other friends. We know that Reya means a friend, like V'ahavta l'reacha k'amaycha. So it maybe means people like Itai Hagiti, who were David's friends, or who was also David's friends? The one who was planted in the camp to be the opposite of Achi Seifel. What was his name? Hushai HaErki. Right? So it means David's other friends, the Hagiborim, and the warriors. Those are the ones who were under the control of Benayahu ben Yehoyada. Asher David, who were David's. Lai hayu im Adoniyahu. They were not with Adoniyahu. Now it doesn't even say Adoniyahu didn't speak to them. But even if he did, they didn't support him. So it's clear from the story David knew nothing about this. We'll see in a second. So the people were talking about it. Some sided with Adoniyahu, some didn't side with Adoniyahu. It could be Adoniyahu hasn't done anything yet. He's just saying, I think I should be king. Yeah, I think you should be king. If you support and he's going to do some sort of, he's going to go into his father and say, don't you think I should be king? I have all these people support me. He's not starting a war. He just thinks that he should be next king, and he's got certain supporters who support his candidacy, right, for the next president. Okay? These are primaries, yeah? And they've elected him. Vayizbach, okay, he's going to put it into action now. Vayizbach, Adoniyahu tzoin, ubaka, umeri. Vayizbach means he slaughtered. Adoniyahu slaughtered, it means a sacrificing party. Tzoin, sheep. Bakar, or cattle. Meri. Meri, I think, is usually translated as fattened sheep. means sheep that were made fat, not some scraggly sheep. This is a real fat one which has been done like something people used to fatten animals for Kratzmach. Yeah? So they have a nice party. So they used to do this as a nice sacrifice. Where do they do this? Im Even HaZocheles, and that's a place called the Zocheles stone. Zochel usually means to crawl. The crawling stone. I don't know why it got that name, but we know where it is. It says Asher Eitzel Ein Rogel, which is near or next to Ein Rogel. Ein Rogel we had once before. Ein Rogel is the place where Tzadok and Avyasa's sons, Achimat and who was the other one? Nosab. Remember they were hiding in order to get the news out from Yerushalayim to pass on to David, when David was in the desert.
Right.
And then they hid in the well with the mat on top.
Yeah.
So they originally stayed outside Yerushalayim in Ein Rogel, which is in that direction. Okay, that's where they were. So this is a place near there, which is not very far. You know, if David's palace is, let's say, down in Silwan, in the Arab village of Shiloah, this is like you go forward, I don't know, half a kilometer, and you go another kilometer down the road. There's an Arab village there, and there's a place today called Ein Rogel. So it's not far out of town. That's where he went to offer his sacrifices.
David's palace was not in the old city of Yerushalayim?
Yes.
It was.
But the whole city of Yerushalayim in those days was not here.
No.
No. This
Down
is
the
much more
valley.
modern. The whole city of Yerushalayim is down in where there's Shiloh, where there's an Arab village called Silwan.
You know the mikvah,
Wow.
the King David mikvah.
It's called Ir David, where the excavations
Ir
are.
David.
So the city was mainly
Yeah,
down
tunnel.
there, and the Temple Mount was up here, right?
So what are we living here?
Well, we're living.
I thought we were living in the
No,
old city.
we are living in the old city, but in the times of later on, in the times of Chizkiyahu, he extended the city around here, and then he made it even further up there. It got bigger over the years.
So he
But
got
in the
it-
times of David, it was down there. That's why it's called Ir David.
Can we still go there?
You can't know that's excavation.
Every Friday before Shabbos, do a run around the city and then mikvah there. And they've got fish that eat your dead skin, so you can just chill
The
there.
river?
Yeah, and you just chill there and you get a full body.
That river, we're going to talk about in Fipsukim.
Wait, but Jews
That river's
live
been
there?
flowing for the last 3,000 years.
Yeah,
But
holy
Jews
water.
are living there, or
No,
No, that's Arab village.
but
There is-
to
there
go
is-
there is not dangerous.
No.
no,
No, part of it is an excavation. It's like the excavation part. The Arab village is not so safe. That's called Silwan. Used to be a Yemenite Jews used to live there.
But there's still some Jewish families. Like people say how dangerous it is, and you go run in the morning, and you'll see kids like going from the way to school, like just walking.
Jewish
up
kids?
Yeah, kibbutz
yeah.
on and everything. You're like,
You know, most people think the whole Rova is not safe. You know, my kids, you go through the shuk on your own. You know, I never told my wife this. I should not listen
What?
to this class.
Really? The shirts.
My wife thinks that I go around every day.
Wait, around to which gate?
No, I come in Shai Yafo and then go
Oh,
through
they-
the Jewish quarter. I don't go through the shuk. I mean, she doesn't know. I mean, that's 22 years I've been.
But what-
telling this story. When my kids tell me you don't, I said, you come to the shuk, you see there's 5-year-olds taking their 3-year-old brothers to school,
Yeah.
right? They go through the shuk. Yeah, people go through the shuk. It's like, is New York dangerous? If you live in New York, it's not dangerous, do you? What? Don't people throw you onto the tram lines? Yeah, it happens once in 10 years. So,
The same as if you go through Damascus Gate or Lions Gate,
Yeah.
especially on Shabbos, I guarantee you'll get wish Shabbat, like Shabbat Shalom, more times than if you walk through the whole old city.
Really?
Because like a lot of Jews are going that way, and then just to make a point of it, they'll be
Ah, I
like
see.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, and it's like, yeah, we're here type thing. It's cool, and there's like a yeshiva there, and it's cool. It's
Right.
like, oh.
okay, so that's they're going down there. So that's where he's gone down there to bring his sacrifices. Vayikra es kol echad b'nei hamelech, and he called es kol echad, all his brothers, b'nei hamelech, the sons of the king. So he called all his brothers as well. Ulachol anshe Yehuda, and all the men of Yehuda, avdei hamelech, who were servants of the king. And he doesn't really see this as a rebellion. He's not rebelling. He's not going to fight his father. He's just making himself king before his father dies. That's
That
all.
is exactly what rebellion is.
No, rebellion is like Avshalom when his father was still a young man. And relative, his father was not
60.
60, right? And he's forcing his father into retirement. Here, his father's closed in his bedroom in any case. His father's not actually running the kingdom.
He doesn't have a.
But like he doesn't.
He's,
He
he doesn't.
the sons.
He's not in a position to express his will properly.
Yeah, well, yeah. He doesn't. Well,
Yeah,
that's what
express
he
it.
thinks. That's what he
Why
thinks.
is he assuming that he's going to be king?
He's not assuming. I think he's assuming the opposite. He's assuming he's not going to be king, but he wants to make sure that he will be. So he's just going to. He thinks that if he makes the facts on the ground, his father won't fight it. If he doesn't do anything, his father will pick Shlomo to the next king. But once he does this, his father's not going to make a fight. If his father doesn't want another war, he'll just say, okay, fine. It's true, I'd rather Shlomo, but now that you've done it, done is done.
Mm.
That's what he thinks. Right? He doesn't know his father until his last breath is a fighting man. He's not going to let him get away with this. We'll see. Okay? But he doesn't want to fight his father. It's not like Avshalom who's out to fight. He just wants to do this peacefully. I'll just do it without fuss. Okay. And he even calls all his brothers as well, right? And all the men of Yehuda who were David's servants. Sure, you're king, right? He's the next son, right? Isn't he right to be the next king? It could be the idea that he's going to pick Shlomo was a suspect amongst David's sons, but the rest of the country had no idea. They know, yes, David's an old man, and he's in his room and then he's just making himself king before David dies. They don't see this as anything wrong. But there's certain people who were not called to this thing. If it's Nasan Hanavi, the prophet Nasan, probably because Nasan was the one who told David that Shlomo is the one who God loves and he should be the next king. So it could be that Adoniyahu knows this as well. Or when Adoniyahu suggested to Nasan, well, would you like to join my claim for the throne? Nasan said, no way, right? Ubenayahu, and also Benayahu, who is the head of David's loyal troops, Esak Yibarim, the warriors, the Shlomo Achel, and also Shlomo, his brother, Loi Kara, he did not call. Because they're clearly the other side. They're the ones he's going to have to deal with when he becomes king. Okay?
Shlomo is how old now? 17?
No, 12.
At 12, okay.
Okay. Ayom Nasan el Bathsheba. Also, Bathsheba's back in the story. Bathsheba is the mother of Shlomo Melech, and she may also be an old woman by now. We don't know how old she was in the story, but I don't know. Whatever. Ayom Nasan el Bathsheba. Aim Shlomo, the mother of Shlomo, just in case you've forgotten. Lamar, saying, Haloi Shamat, have you not heard? Ki Malach Adoniyahu ben Chagis, that Adoniyahu ben Chagis has made himself king. He's now king. He's gone down to this place and coronated himself. But Adonenu David, our master David, Lo Yodad, doesn't know. He knows nothing about this. He's in his room there. No reports get through. He knows nothing about it. And he's going to act as king and run the country, and David's going to know nothing about it. He's going to die very shortly as well, so it's not going to be. Ve'ata, and now, this is speaking, Nasan, and prophet is speaking to Bathsheba. Lechi, go. That's how you command a woman. I don't say lech to a man. Lechi to a woman. I'atzech. I'atzech means?
With my advice?
Yes, that was with two words. It's one word. It means I will advise. I'atzech. I know why there's a yud there. I'atzech. But the root is yo'atz. Yo'atz is the root. So I'atzech, I will give you advice. I'atzech, I will give you advice. I will give you advice. It's 5 words in English. It's 1 word in Hebrew. I'atzech, no. That means either now or please let me give you advice. Eitzah, advice. I will, I'atzech is the verb, Eitzah is the noun. I will advise you advice. Umalti es nafshech, and you will escape your life. If you don't follow my advice, what's actually going to happen is Adoniyahu is going to continue being king. Okay? Then David will die and he will kill you and Shlomo because you are the opposition, the threat to him. Okay? So if you want to save your skin, you better listen to my advice. Umalti es nafshech, and you will save your life as nefesh b'nei Shlomo, and the life of your son Shlomo. Nefesh means life, right? You want to save your soul?
Never what?
Nefesh.
Oh, yeah.
Nefesh is like
Soul,
life.
so
So
yes.
you want to save your skin, right? Listen to my advice. And the skin of your son, Shlomo, because both of you, your lives are at risk if you allow Adoniyahu to continue being king. Lechi, go.
Oh.
Lechi, go. I'd have to rewrite the translation.
No, I haven't.
Lechi, go. Uboi, and come, El HaMelech, David, to the king
Oh,
David.
right.
Ve'amarate love, and you shall say to him, Haloi ata Adoni HaMelech Nishbata La'amoscha Lemar. Didn't you, my master the king, swear to his maidservant as follows? Let's read that guy. Haloi.
Yeah.
Is it not? Ata, you, Adoni HaMelech, my master the king, Nishbata, you swore, La'amoscha, to your maidservant, to me, Lemar. Didn't you swear to me as follows? What did David supposed to have sworn to her? Ki Shloima b'neich yimleich acharai. That Shloima, your son, will rule after me. V'hu yeshev al kisi, and he will sit on my throne. That sounds like the same thing to me. He will rule after me, he will sit on my throne. It could be you could rule without actually being king.
Yeah.
You could be second in command, but sitting on the throne, that means zoning. Umadua malach Adoniah. So if you swore to me that my son will be the next king, why is Adoniah become king? Now, we don't have any record in Tanach of this oath that David swore to Bathsheba. It's not written in the story at some point that he said to her, your son Shlomo will be king, right? But obviously if the prophet tells her to say this to David, David's not going to turn around and say, what? Where did you get that from? You just make that up.
Yeah.
No, obviously it's true, right? So you realize that not every fact is written in the story. There's parts of the story that you can work out. That obviously it's true that he did say this at some point.
Yeah, there's such things as bedtime chats.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't have to be written. Right, it doesn't have to be written in the story. Why David would swear this to her, we don't know. Right? It could be, I don't know, she was upset for him. I have no idea, right? But at some point in their relationship, David swore this to her. Okay? Hine. And that's, so you're going to say that. So why did you let Adonio, making out as if you have no idea that he doesn't know? You and I both know that David doesn't know about this. You don't say that to the king that you don't know, right? So since you swore to me, why did you let him become king? Hine, behold, now still the nos on the prophet is speaking to her. He's setting her up for what she should say. Oidach medaberes sham, whilst you are still speaking there. That means like oid. Oid is more. Oidach is you are more. Medaberes, speaking. In English you say, whilst you're still speaking, sham there, imamelech for the king, va'ani avo alkam, well plan it, synchronize it, in the middle of your conversation, I will come to back up your thing, right? Va'ani avo acharayich, I will come after you, umilesi es devoroich, and I will fill, malay, I will fill, means I will fill in the blanks, the bits of information that you wouldn't know because you're in the palace. I can then speak from an observer outside the palace and be able to verify your claim to the king. Because the truth is the king is going to know nothing about it. So the king will turn around to you and say, oh, I don't know, I'll have to find out. Just then, I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill him in the details. Okay. That's what she did. The queen came, Bathsheba came to the king, Hachadra, to his room. Cheder is a room. Hacheder is the room. Hachadra, to the room. Okay, the hey, the aleph is like a lamed at the beginning. So she came to the room. Va'melech zaken, and the king is an old man. No, it's very old. Didn't say that at the beginning of the story, did it? Just said Va'melech zaken. Now he's very old because he's got older. I mean, it could have been a year later. We don't know. It doesn't say how long later it was, right? Ve'avishagashu namis. So she's back in the story, right? Because she's in the room with him, right? Ashigashu namis mishares es hamelech. Serving the king, making him tea, writing him a letter. I don't know what he's doing. Okay. Vatikoid Bathsheba, and she bowed down. So kida really means to, I think, like to you would say to curtsy or to bow her head. Curtsy is the way women bow down. Have you seen that when they do it? That's it.
Right.
Okay. Whatever. Vatishtachu, but then she bowed down. I mean, you bend your head and then you get down on your knees.
Like
La melech.
okay,
It doesn't say, no, when it says to prostrate, will you say apayim? Atishtachu apayim. When you put your face on the ground. It could be she being a woman and B being the queen, she doesn't have to do that. Even though he's the king, it could be she doesn't have to go flat down on her face like everybody else does when they bow to the king. Atishtachu hamelech, vayoyma hamelech, and the king said, Ma'loch. What do you want?
Why are you dancing? Like
No, he knows. No, that's probably the way she always greets him.
Right, yeah.
But why does she want anything? Like, he's an old man. He doesn't have whatever. I presume he doesn't have a relationship with Bathsheba anymore. By time Eloi, I mean, if he did, he wouldn't have needed Ashvisha Shunamis, right? By time Eloi, and she said, Adoni, my master, Ata Nishbata, you swore, B'Hashem Elokecha, with the Lord your God, I mean, you swore in God's name, La'amasecha, to your maidservant, that means to me, Ki Shloima V'nech, that Shloima, your son, Yimleich Acharoi, will rule after me. Hu Yeshem Al Kisi, and he will sit on my throne. So that's word for word the same as she was told to say, except that she added in that the oath was B'Hashem Elokecha.
Oh.
That using God's name. That when the prophet said to her, say to the king that he
to
swore.
me, not to Hashem.
No. I always swore to her, but it was in God's name. I swear by God that I will do this to your son. I will make your son. It could be that the prophet didn't need to say those words because he's not going to say Hashem's name for nothing.
But here she says.
She says it. She says you swore in God's name.
Yes, that's different.
Yes, I realize different. But it could be the prophet also knew that. He just doesn't need to say it because he doesn't need to say Hashem's name for nothing.
But
it could be also doesn't even know if David used God's name in the oath. The prophet wasn't there when David swore to Bathsheba, was he?
And like making an oath, I mean, if you make an oath, isn't it just as like you don't need to use Hashem's name, isn't it? An oath?
Well, yes. Sometimes you'll say Hashem's name on explicitly. Sometimes it's hinted to in the word oath. The oath means, as long as God lives. That's what it means. But sometimes you'll say it explicitly. Okay. Ve'ata. And now, hine, behold, Adoniyo Malach. Adoniyo has become king. Ve'ata Adoni HaMelech. And now, my master the king, lo yadat, you don't know. That's slightly different from what she was told to say. She was told to say, and why has Adoniyo become king? She actually said it a bit longer. Now, behold, Adoniyo is king, and now the king doesn't know. And then she fills in all sorts of extra information. Yizbach, and he slaughtered Shor, which is bulls, Umeri, and fattened sheep, Vitzon, and sheep. And she also changed the order slightly from the original order. Larov, lots of them. Vayikra lechol b'nei hamelech, and he called, who did? Adoniyo called all the sons of the king, Ule Evyasar HaKoyen, and also to Evyasar the priest, Ule Yoav Asar HaTzava, and to Yoav the head of the army. She wasn't actually told to say all this, but it could be she's waiting for the prophet to come. He didn't come yet, so she fills in the details. I don't know, but he didn't actually say to say all these details. Ule Shlomo Avdecha, and to Shlomo your servant, Lo Kara, he did not call. Ve'ata Adoni HaMelech, and you, my master the king, Einei Chal Yisrael Alecha, the eyes of all Israel are upon you. Means everyone wants to know what to do. They're waiting to hear your reaction. Lehagid lahem, to tell them, Mi Yeshev, who will sit on Kisei Adoni HaMelech Achron, who will sit on the throne of the king after him. Everyone wants to hear your opinion on this story. V'haya, and it will be. Wow, she's got a long talk. The Chazal said that 9 out of 10 portions of speech were given to women. Now you given one sentence to say. Yes, there's 10 portions were given to the world. 9 women talk and 1 men talk. I had a rabbi who used to, when he taught girls, he would say, and the 10th one they stole from the men. Sometimes we tried to, the girls were talking in class, when they get quiet, he'd say, "They're not him, you thieves." He took the 10th portion of speech from them. Okay, so what if it will be, and it will be, Kishkav Adoni HaMelech, when my master the king dies. Now, Shekav doesn't mean to die, it means to lie. What she's saying, when you will lie, Im Avoisav, with his forefathers, that's another way of saying to die. It's a nice way. You lie, your forefathers are all dead, right? So you lie with them. So when you will die, what? V'ha'yisi, and I will be, I, ubeni Shlomo, and my son Shlomo, chata'im. Chata'im really means the sinners. Will be the ones who will be the sinners, as opposed to being, will be on the wrong side, right? So she finished her speech. But here, behold, she was still speaking. Maybe she had more to say. Ima Melech, the Nasan and Navi Ba. Nasan the prophet came. They told the king.
And he still hasn't entered yet.
Now he's about to come. He came, but he wants an audience with the king. You don't just go in. Right?
Yeah.
It looks like Bathsheba didn't need to ask an audience. When she came, she just walked in the room.
Wow.
Right? It's her husband, right?
Yeah.
So she shows great respect for him. She bows down and she calls him my master, but she doesn't have to go through the whole protocol of getting or it could be she normally would do, but that's why the king said, what do you want? Clearly just barged in the room, right? Means maybe she knocked before, I don't know. But when the prophet comes, there's a whole protocol. The prophet wants to speak, let him in, whatever. They told the king, Lamar, saying as follows, Hine, behold, Nasan Anovi, here is Nasan, the prophet. And he came in front of the king, he bowed to the king, al apov, on his face. So that's the right thing. Everybody else besides the queen has to get on the full face. Outside to the ground. And Nasan said, Adoni HaMelech, my master the king. Ata Mauta. Now he's clear from the sentence it's a question. Did you say? Usually would say Ha'ata Mauta, right? Oh, well. It could be. He's not saying it as a question. He's saying it as a statement, but it means to be a question. Ata Mauta, you said, Adoniyahu Yimloch Acharai. Adoniyahu shall be king after me. V'hu Yeshev al Tisi, and he will sit on my throne. So it's clear he means to say, did you say this? Ki, why do I ask you this question? Ki, because Yaradayom, he's gone today by Yizbach, and he's slaughtered Tzoin, Umeri, Vatzon, Shor, Umeri, Vatzon. He's gone down and slaughtered oxen and fattened sheep. Vatzon, Larava, many sheep. By Yikra, and he's called L'chol B'nei HaMelech, all the king's sons. U'Lesarei HaTzavah, and the officers of the army. Now that is different than what she said. She said he's called to Yoav Sarat Tzavah. And Nasan didn't say that. He said Sarei HaTzavah. He didn't mention Yoav by name. Don't know why. Ule Evyasar HaKoyen. And Evyasar HaKoyen. Hinam Oichlim. Hinam, behold, they are Ochlim, eating, Veshosim, and drinking, Lefanav, in front of him. Yomru, and they said, what did they say? Yechi HaMelech. What does Yechi HaMelech mean?
Long live the king.
Long live the king. I think that's what it says. Let's check it out. I've got a copy here somewhere. Here, Melachim. Yechi HaMelech Adoniyo. Long live the king Adoniyo. So we'll leave it there, okay? And we'll continue tomorrow, please God. I'll print it out properly for you. Okay. Well, it could be that he didn't want to rub in about Yoav. Not sure. But he does say about Evyasar. I mean, he has to make the story clear, but you can hint to Yoav by saying the officers of the army. He doesn't have to pick out Yoav by name. She's already done that. Although I don't know how he knows what she's going to say. Right? Because she wasn't told to say all this, she just said it all. Right? Maybe he thinks it's wrong to pick out Yoav and point out Yoav. It's good enough to say those officers of the army have joined him. The army's on his side, the high priest is on his side, doesn't have to mention Yoav personally. Okay? So we'll see how this is going to end. He's got tomorrow.
How long is Kings compared to Shmuel?
It's also made into 2 books. For the same reason it's a bit wieldy to do it all in one go.
Oh, and how many kings does it go through?
It goes through all the kings till the destruction. So it's like over a period, the first temple stood for 410 years. It was built by King Solomon in, 11th year of his reign. So it's a period of 430 years between here and the end of Kings. It goes through about 20 kings in either kingdom. 20 kings in the kingdom of the northern kingdom and the same parallel period in the southern kingdom. It's about 40 different kings we'll learn about, approximately. I think so. Maybe 30, between 30 and 40 kings. Some of them are very, very short, doesn't say very much about them. If you want to read more about this guy, look in the Book of Chronicles. And he was the evil in the eyes of God. Read more about it in the Book of Chronicles. That's like a common theme in Kings. But That's quite a lot of them are like that. Most of them are very exciting stories. A lot of stories about Shlomo and about Achav, king of the northern kingdom, and Eliyahu Hanavi, and Elisha Hanavi, and Yehoshaphat was a big tzaddik, and Chizkiyahu HaMelech, that's towards the end. Parts of it we'll probably have to miss out. I'm not sure we'll miss out.
Well,
We'll read it on our own. Let's see. It's about the detailed structure of the temple. It's a lot of details, which is like really taxing. We'll see.
really?
Unless you like that stuff.
We did a whole Mishnah on it.
Yeah, but it's not that sort of details. This is much more detailed. The Mishnah is just the basic structure of the building, how big it was, and the number of steps.
Yeah.
No, this is much more details.
What, like, I can't
You
imagine.
can't imagine. Yeah, you'll read it. We'll see. About the copper washing basins.
That were built from the. Oh, that was the Mishkan.
Mishkan was very straightforward.
But that
It
was
was
from
about the rods.
Oh.